New questions are being raised about Cambridge Analytica, the data analytics firm with ties to the Trump campaign. This after an explosive report from The Guardian, which found the company mined data on millions of Americans without permission. That information was then used to support President Trump's candidacy. For more on this, let's bring in Annalisa Morelli. She's a geopolitics reporter for Quartz and joins me now. Annalisa, thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask you sort of about the role of Facebook in this particular situation. Facebook knew about it, according to these reports, for almost 3 years.
For almost 3 years. So about 3 years ago, Facebook found out that an app that was promoted or created by a Cambridge professor had been used to harvest data that then had been passed on to Cambridge Analytica. And what they did is they banned the app from Facebook, and then they required from this company that had already clearly, sort of broken the terms and conditions of use, a declaration that they were going to destroy all the data, so that they were going to destroy the data they had collected, and then the data that had been passed on to the other companies was going to be destroyed. And turns out they didn't. So a whistleblower a couple of days ago came out, who used to work for Cambridge Analytica, a company that had Steve Bannon among his, vice president, came out and said that no, that they actually used those information, and so they collected the profiles of, I think it was 270,000 people, but also they got access to their friends on Facebook, and so about 50 million users were sort of, and their data were sort of used and manipulated to.
One of the lines was $1 million for something like 50 million users.
Yeah.
50 million users.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
Pretty cheap, no?
Yeah.
So the fact that they had access not just to people who logged onto this third-party app, but also people who were friends. It's not just their accounts, it's maybe their employer history, personal information about their location.
Correct.
How does somebody protect themselves against something like this?
Well, that's where it becomes really problematic, because Facebook is really not showing much accountability when it comes to that. The company has sent out a sort of a press release or an explanation of what happened, and they explain that they did their best and they're very concerned in guaranteeing the safety of their users, but in reality, this shows that they haven't. Right. And they really put the attention on people sort of deciding what information they want to share. So the idea is that, well, if you don't want your information to go to this app, just don't give it. But in this case, well, people had given it to the app, but not necessarily to Cambridge Analytica. So it becomes a bit murky. Clearly, people can go on Facebook and change their setting and sort of rescind the information that they've given before, but that doesn't really guarantee that.
But it doesn't really take it away. I mean, this whistleblower said that Facebook had reached out, you need to delete the data, but there was no follow-up.
No, there was
nothing.
Absolutely, or at least from what it appears, they didn't really require anything else than the whistleblower calls it like just a check on on a square that says yes, we deleted the data. So yes, once they have it, there's no guarantee that they will give it back.
We're talking about Facebook, but this is more than just Facebook.
Absolutely.
It's any sort of social media.
In fact, any online company that collects data, and that's something that we're exposed to continuously during the day. So that's why it's particularly worrisome, I think.
So, Annalisa, I think about my own social media use, and you think about who else has other information. I use Amazon all the time. Should I be concerned that they have my purchase history, and could they have other information about me?
Hypothetically, yes. It seems that there's a lot of personal information that's collected in all of our online transactions, and this is a case that shows it's not truly completely safe. Obviously it is if the companies respect the terms and conditions, but it appears they don't always do.
It really seems like the toothpaste is out of the tube at this point. You can't squeeze it back in.
No.
How do you work with this now moving forward, knowing what we all know?
Well, I suppose people will be more careful. I do believe that there will be more calls to social media companies and to regulate the amount of information that they collect and become more accountable. So that's definitely going to be a push forward in that direction. But yes, people will be more cautious. I will be more cautious.
And you cover this full time.
Yeah, and I was thinking this morning, I'll go and look at all the apps that I've authorized and probably take a few away, because we do that continuously. You log into Facebook to listen to your music, to get your cab service, like everything sort of goes through it. It's a lot of information.
Yeah, it almost seems like you've got to have this new cyber hygiene to protect yourself, or at least limit your exposure.
Yes, absolutely.
Annalisa Morelli, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.